And the pipeline will come right where that field hits the woods area. It'll come
Right.
along that line and come right through this field.
This is not a good place for a pipeline.
No, it's a very bad place for a pipeline.
So how fast is that? This is a high pressure frac gas pipeline. How fast does that go through?
It's 2 billion units a day. Plus, there are several strengths of pipe. There are thicknesses of pipe, and they're going to use the thinner pipe out here because there are no people around. It's not an urban situation.
What's this?
So, as they go through these wildlands, they will consider this, something they can use the less expensive, thinner pipe with.
Well, and the other thing is, here's your house, 38 years. A pipeline like this, if it explodes, this explodes. You're right next to it.
We would be a 40-foot pit here, a 40-foot deep pit.
And is that not part of the consideration when you go up? You just went up in front of a judge. Did that come up at all in the courtroom?
No.
Will this be bringing energy to Virginia?
We feel like they're going to be taking this to the coast where they can take it to countries in Europe where they can get a higher price for it, which will eventually mean that we will be competing with prices that Europe is paying for it, and it will increase the cost to Americans in the long run.
So have you received notice?
We have had an offer. It took them over 3 years to finally make us an offer because they knew from the start that we were not going to be, complacent with their plan, and they offered us, well, can I say?
Sure.
$15,000, and they
for
said
the property
for coming across the easement of our front yard and down our driveway. They offered us $15,000,
No.
and they said, and that's more than it's worth. So I always felt this was a very valuable property.
Worth a
Pipeline here, it would not be worth very much anymore.
These pipelines are going to be leaking methane, which they do, even
Yes,
if they're
they
brand
do.
new.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard the other day in Richmond that will be the equivalent, the greenhouse gas equivalent of 46 coal-fired plants.
Yeah, and we won't have any fragrance in the gas out here, so we will not know if it's leaking, but it inevitably will to some degree, and it's extremely frightening, very frightening.
I've sat with people who are really hurting because of those pipelines. They're coming right into their back pasture and right next to the house. And in looking closely at these pipelines, it is very clear that Virginia does not need these pipelines. In fact, the energy doesn't even come to Virginia. So why are we using eminent domain to take away property rights from sustainable farms? Why would you do that? Why would you take a historic African-American freedmen community and put a giant toxic compressor station right in the middle of it? This is wrong.
What happens if they build the compressor station right down the road?
We'll still be here. We ain't going nowhere. And once that compressor station comes online, after it throws enough poisons up in the air, she's going to have a residual effect.
Absolutely.
Okay? And if something goes wrong, they don't tell you what ground zero is. But do you know what ground zero is for that compressor station?
What?
Ground zero? Everything in 2 miles is gone.
Yeah.
Everything.
But there've been some accidents up in Pennsylvania.
They don't want you to know about
New
that.
Jersey and in New York and in Alabama.
That's right.
All over the place.
But how did you find out about these accidents?
I went online.
Thank you. You had to dig for it. Did they tell you? Did the industry tell you?
No.
They had an explosion at a small compressor station in Appomattox about 10 years ago. One person was killed. And this was a little bitty compressor station, okay, to maintain pressure in a 16-inch line. This is a 42-inch line. And we also know that traditionally, all of these compressor stations have been put at intervals.
Yeah.
Right. But they realized that they would rather fight one small rural community way out in the boonies than a small black community, rather than upset a whole lot of other folk all up and down the line, and putting several compressor stations.
They asked the Forest Service if they could place it in forest land, and they said no, because it would affect the wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait a minute. It'll affect the wildlife, but we've got 40 families right here.
Mm-hmm. With 80% of those 40 families, us.
That's true.
Okay? And that's historic of how America does business. Okay?
You mean it's because these are African American families?
Sure. I asked the question, I asked Dominion, why did you select this area? But I already knew they had 2 other areas up for choice. Okay? And this is the answer that I received verbatim. Location, location, location. These other 2 locations, guess what? They were white enclaves. Dominion Energy says that we can tolerate all of this.
Tom Garrett supports all that.
Why?
Tell me why.
He's Republican. Why else? Okay, and watch this. And he's from Buckingham County.
Yeah, but he's not looking after people in Buckingham County, is he?
Of course not.
Has he been down here to talk?
Of course
to
not.
families?
That's
No.
what we need. We need someone that's not afraid to stand up for what is right. And they know what is right.